Welcome to Conversations That Awaken. This is a special series from A Course in Miracles that has inspired millions of readers around the world. Some see it as a spiritual masterpiece, others find it mysterious, challenging, or even controversial. Whatever brings you here, we invite you to leave your beliefs and your disbeliefs at the door. This is not a Bible study, this is not a sermon, and it is not about asking you to accept anyone else's truth. It is an invitation to investigate reality for yourself. I am Kim. In every episode, Joe and I will explore the text found in A Course in Miracles through 6 powerful lenses: science, philosophy, psychology, mysticism, direct experience, and everyday living. We'll ask difficult questions, we'll challenge assumptions, we'll laugh together, and we'll discover how these teachings can transform the way we see ourselves, our relationships, and the world around us. Whether you're new to A Course in Miracles or have studied it for decades, our purpose is simple: to uncover the timeless wisdom hidden beneath its words. We won't ask, what should we believe? We'll ask, what can we discover? Because awakening is not about collecting new ideas. It is about change in perception. It's about seeing clearly. It's about moving from fear to love, from separation to wholeness, from confusion to understanding. So take a deep breath, set aside everything you think you know, and join us for a special series in A Course in Miracles.
I want you to put yourself in a very specific, probably very familiar scenario for a minute.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
So you're sitting on your couch, you're having a perfectly quiet Tuesday evening, just relaxing.
Sounds nice so far.
Right. But then your phone buzzes on the coffee table. You pick it up, you glance at the screen, and you see a text message from your boss.
Oh, I already feel the dread.
Yeah, and the text just says, "We need to talk about your performance immediately. Call me."
Oh, wow. Yeah, panic mode instantly.
Exactly. What happens to your body in that exact second? Your stomach drops into your shoes.
Oh, your heart starts hammering against your ribs.
Your palms get sweaty. Your brain is just instantly flooding your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline.
You're in full-blown fight-or-flight survival mode at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you spend the next 5 minutes pacing the room. You're imagining getting fired. You're imagining losing your home. Just completely spiraling.
We've all been there. It's awful.
But then your phone buzzes again. It's another text from your boss.
What does this one say?
It says, "Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. That was meant for the regional manager. Typo. Have a great night."
Oh, the relief. I mean, you can physically feel it.
Right. In a fraction of a second, the panic just vanishes. Your heart rate slows down. You collapse back onto the couch, probably laughing.
It's like a weight is lifted.
But I want you to look very closely at what just happened there. Did the physical world around you change at all?
Not even a little bit.
No. You're sitting on the exact same couch, in the same room, looking at the same glass screen.
The only thing that changed was your mind's interpretation of those pixels.
Exactly. Your biological reaction was incredibly real, but the reality it was reacting to was a complete illusion.
That is such a profound way to look at it.
We're starting with that visceral experience because today's deep dive is going to challenge the very foundation of how you perceive reality.
We are really going in deep today.
We are. We're taking a hammer to the classic Hollywood definition of a miracle.
Because, we've all been conditioned to think a miracle is like someone walking on water.
Right, or an angel party in the clouds.
Yeah, some kind of cosmic suspension of the laws of physics.
But that's not what we're talking about today. Our source material is absolutely fascinating.
It really is.
We are pulling insights directly from transcripts of a series called Conversations That Awaken by Joe Bandra.
And specifically, we're focusing on their deep investigations into a pretty heavily debated text known as A Course in Miracles.
Now, before anyone gets nervous about the title of that text, I want to establish some ground rules for our discussion today.
Yeah, that's important. This isn't what people might think it is.
Definitely not. This is not a sermon. Joe Bandra explicitly approaches this material as an investigation into direct experience.
He is absolutely not asking anyone to adopt a blind belief system.
Right, or convert to a new religion or dogma.
The invitation here is to act as, well, basically a scientist of your own mind.
I love that phrase, a scientist of your own mind.
Because we're going to apply tools from neurobiology, modern psychology, and philosophy.
Just really question the machinery of your perception. We aren't looking for faith here.
No, we're looking for evidence in how you process your daily life.
So let's jump straight into the deep end. The most jarring assertion from these transcripts is the claim that miracles are actually the natural state of the human mind.
Which sounds wild at first.
It does. The
Yeah.
text argues that fear, meaning all of our daily anxieties, our resentments, our existential dread, is what's actually unnatural.
And that flips everything we know on its head.
I have to be honest, when I read that, my immediate reaction was just deep skepticism.
Oh, sure. How could you not be skeptical?
I mean, I look at the history of humanity, or I look at the evening news, or frankly, I just look at my own brain when I'm stuck in traffic.
Right, exactly.
Fear and anxiety feel like the most natural default settings of the human operating system.
It is entirely understandable to feel that way because fear is ubiquitous. It's everywhere.
It really is.
But we have to separate the word common from the word natural.
Okay, wait, unpack that for me.
Just because something is everywhere doesn't mean it's our fundamental baseline.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I see where you're going.
To illustrate this, the source material points us toward a newborn baby.
Oh, that's a great example.
Look at a human being before the world has had a chance to condition them. A newborn doesn't harbor hatred.
No, of course not.
A baby doesn't hold on to a grudge because someone stole their toy 3 weeks ago.
Right, they just move on.
They don't look at the infant in the next crib and feel this crushing sense of inadequacy about their own developmental milestones.
But a skeptic would say, well, sure, they do feel fear. I mean, babies scream in terror when there's a loud noise,
True.
or when they're separated from their mother. Isn't that fear?
That is a crucial distinction we have to make. We have to separate a biological startle reflex from a psychological fear.
Okay, biological versus psychological.
Yes, a baby has survival instincts. If there's a sudden loud crash, the nervous system reacts. That is biological self-preservation.
Makes sense. Keeps them alive.
But the baby does not lie awake at 2 a.m, wondering if the loud noise means the economy is collapsing.
Right. They aren't worried they'll end up destitute.
Exactly. The psychological fear we are talking about, the continuous scanning for social threats, the harsh internal critic.
The belief that we're separate and alone in a hostile universe.
Yes, those are learned behaviors. They are programs we install over years of social conditioning.
Through trauma. We're just mimicking the fearful adults around us when we're kids.
Precisely.
Okay, I see the distinction now. So if all this psychological torment is just an acquired software program we've downloaded over time,
Which it is.
what happens if you run an uninstall protocol? What is actually left when the fear program is deleted?
What remains is the baseline, the original operating system.
So just peace.
Yes. And therefore, a miracle within this specific framework is not you transforming into something extraordinary.
You don't mutate into some glowing, perfect saint.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
A miracle is merely the sudden remembering of a state that was never actually lost.
It was just buried under years of acquired programming.
Exactly. It is the restoration of your natural state of peace.
I get the logic. I really do. But I also see why people reject it.
Because it feels boring.
Yes. It feels totally boring. The part of our brain that loves drama, which the text calls the ego, wants a spectacle.
The ego thrives on spectacle.
Right. If I'm suffering, I don't want a quiet internal shift. I want a burning bush.
You want the universe to put on a fireworks display to validate how much pain you've been in.
Exactly. I want proof that my pain mattered.
The ego demands a magic trick because it believes the external world is the source of its pain.
But we have to examine why those supernatural spectacles are completely useless for achieving actual peace.
Let's run a thought experiment.
Yeah.
Imagine you are granted the ultimate Hollywood miracle.
Okay, I'm ready.
You wake up tomorrow and you can levitate. You can just float 4 feet off the ground at will.
That would be awesome.
What actually happens to your life?
Well, initially I'd be ecstatic. I'd float around my living room. I'd probably start an Instagram account.
You'd go incredibly viral.
Oh, for sure. I'd go on all the talk shows. It would be amazing for about a month.
And then what happens on month 2?
Hmm.
Does the ability to levitate cure your deep-seated fear of abandonment?
Well, no.
If your partner leaves you, you're still heartbroken. You're just heartbroken while hovering near the ceiling.
That is a tragically funny image.
Right. Does it cure your fear of death? Does it stop you from being jealous of a rival at work?
Not at all.
The spectacle alters the physical physics of the room, but it does absolutely zero to heal the internal interpreter that generates your suffering.
So you just remain a lonely, anxious person who happens to have a neat party trick.
Exactly.
That paints a very clear, slightly depressing picture. The hovering, miserable person.
It really puts it in perspective.
It reminds me of a concept I was thinking about while reading this. It's like having a computer infected with incredibly malicious background malware.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. It's draining the battery. It's corrupting the files. You can buy the computer a brand new, expensive, diamond-encrusted case.
You can upgrade the monitor to the highest resolution possible.
Exactly. You've completely changed the external circumstances of the machine, but the moment you turn it on,
A malware is still there, ruining the system.
the source material uses a much simpler analogy that accomplishes the same thing. It talks about a dusty window.
I love the dusty window analogy.
If you spend an hour scrubbing a window covered in grime, you didn't invent the sunlight.
No, you didn't do anything magical to the sun
You
outside.
merely removed the obstruction.
Exactly.
But this raises a major question for me. If the miracle is just the wiping away of the dirt, the deletion of the malware,
Yes.
what exactly is the sunlight that we are finally letting in?
Yeah.
The text uses the word love, but that word comes with so much cultural baggage.
Oh, it really does. We have absolutely ruined the word love in modern language.
We really have. We equate it with romance.
Or sentimentality. Or that fleeting rush of dopamine you get when someone compliments you.
So how is this text defining it?
In the context of this investigation, love is not an emotion you have to generate.
It's not something you do.
No, it's not something you do. Love is defined as the natural byproduct of the disappearance of separation.
The disappearance of separation. Okay, explain that.
When you stop defending this imaginary, fragile, isolated version of yourself, when the dirt is wiped away,
Yeah.
compassion simply arises on its own. Generosity arises on its own.
Because there's no threat anymore.
Exactly. You don't have to force yourself to be kind when you no longer perceive the person sitting across from you as a threat to your existence.
I really want you listening to just sit with that for a second. Think about the biggest problem in your life right now.
The one causing you the absolute most stress.
If a wizard appeared and handed you a magical physical solution, say $1 million,
Or the ability to control someone else's mind.
how long would it actually take for your brain to find a brand new thing to be terrified about?
Probably not very long at all.
We are constantly trying to rearrange the furniture in a burning house, thinking a better feng shui will stop the flames.
That's beautifully put.
But if we accept that the miracle is just clearing the window, we run into a massive conceptual roadblock.
Which is?
Does the amount of dirt on the window matter?
Ah, yes.
This brings us to the first principle of the course, and I am going to warn you, it is infuriating to read.
It is deliberately provocative.
Oh, I felt provoked.
It's designed to completely short-circuit how our logical minds operate.
The text states, right out of the gate, there is no order of difficulty in miracles.
No order of difficulty.
I have to stop here and fight this because it feels completely detached from the reality we actually live in.
I get why you'd feel that way.
We exist in a universe governed by degrees of difficulty. Lifting a boulder takes more energy than lifting a pebble.
It's just basic physics.
Building a skyscraper is way harder than building a birdhouse. So when we apply this to psychology, are they seriously arguing that letting go of my anger when someone cuts me off in traffic
Yes.
requires the exact same level of miracle as forgiving a lifetime of severe traumatic abuse?
That's the claim.
Because frankly, that feels insulting to the trauma someone has survived. It feels mathematically incorrect.
Your reaction is exactly how the human ego is programmed to respond.
It feels offensive.
It feels offensive because we use our suffering to construct our identities.
What do you mean by that?
We say, I am the person who survived this monumental betrayal. We want our massive wounds to require massive, nearly impossible miracles to heal.
Because it validates how deeply we were hurt.
Exactly. We take the physical laws of the universe, the boulder and the pebble, and we mistakenly map them onto consciousness.
We assume a big problem in the physical world requires a big exertion of energy in the internal world.
Yes. But before we look at what this really means, we have to look at Joe Bandra's interpretation here.
Oh, please, because I need some clarity on this.
Bandra points out that a miracle is never measured by the external size of the problem.
Okay.
It is measured exclusively by the disappearance of the illusion of separation.
But if someone betrays my trust after 20 years of marriage, the neural pathways of that pain are deep trenches.
They are.
They're canyons in my brain. If a stranger bumps into me at the grocery store, that's just a scratch in the dirt.
Right.
How can filling a canyon be the same as brushing over a scratch?
Because you're still measuring the dirt. You are measuring the illusions.
Still measuring the dirt. Wow.
The shift we are talking about doesn't operate on the level of the dirt. It operates on the level of awareness.
Okay, I think I'm following.
Think about gravity. Gravity is a fundamental field.
Right.
It doesn't sweat, strain, or exert extra effort to hold an elephant to the ground while relaxing when it holds a feather.
Gravity just is.
Exactly. Or think about a mirror. A mirror doesn't struggle more to reflect a raging forest fire than it does to reflect a single candle flame.
The surface of the mirror is completely unbothered by the content of the reflection.
Exactly. It's just a reflection.
Let's break that down mechanically, though. What does that actually look like in practice?
The internal movement from fear to love is identical in every single situation, regardless of the trigger.
So, when someone cuts me off in traffic,
The ego says, this person is a threat. I am separate from them. My peace is destroyed.
right, that's the default reaction.
To experience a miracle in that moment, your awareness must recognize, my peace does not actually depend on this stranger's driving.
Okay, that makes sense for traffic.
Right.
But let's scale it up.
To the devastating betrayal of a 20-year marriage.
Right. The ego says, this person destroyed my life. I am fundamentally broken. My peace is gone forever.
And to experience a miracle in that moment, your awareness must eventually recognize, my fundamental peace and wholeness do not actually depend on this person's actions.
Wow. The external circumstances are wildly, vastly different in scale.
They are, and the amount of time it takes your ego to accept it might be different.
But the mechanical shift in consciousness,
Waking up from the belief that your internal state is hostage to the external world, that realization is identical.
the light switch only has two positions, fear or love.
Exactly. It doesn't have a dimmer switch based on the severity of the trauma.
I am dwelling on this because it's so counterintuitive, but I'm actually starting to see the empowerment behind it.
It is deeply empowering once you grasp it,
The ego feels insulted because it loses its special status as a unique victim.
which is hard to let go of.
But if we accept this, if we accept that awareness doesn't keep a scorecard, it means we don't have to wait for some Herculean, impossible, cosmic event to heal our deepest wounds.
The mechanism of freedom is the exact same simple movement we use to let go of a minor annoyance.
But as much as that makes philosophical sense, the source material doesn't let us stop there.
No, Joe Bandra is adamant that we cannot just swallow these ideas because they sound poetic or comforting.
Comfort is definitely not the goal here.
Truth is the goal. Bandra introduces a framework he calls the 6 lenses of investigation.
Okay, let's get into these lenses.
He argues that any spiritual or psychological claim must be stress-tested through multiple disciplines before we allow it to guide our lives.
So we have to look at the concept of a miracle through philosophy, psychology, mysticism, direct experience, everyday living, and science.
Let's weave through these because this is where the theory really hits the pavement.
Let's start with philosophy. Through a philosophical lens, the text defines a miracle as the correction of a mistaken identity.
This goes back to what we're just saying about the ego.
Philosophy asks, who is the I that is suffering?
If you believe you are merely a fragile, isolated meat suit fighting for resources in a hostile universe,
Of course you're terrified. You'd have to be,
the miracle is correcting the premise of who you think you are.
which flows perfectly into the second lens, psychology. How does psychology view this shift?
It views it as the dissolving of limiting beliefs.
But we need to explain how a limiting belief actually dissolves. It isn't magic.
No, it's very physiological. In neuroscience, we talk about Hebb's law. Neurons that fire together wire together.
Right. So if you grew up in a chaotic household, your brain wired a connection that says, people are dangerous. I must always be on guard.
And every time you get defensive, you reinforce that neural pathway. It becomes a physical superhighway in your brain.
So how does the psychological miracle happen?
It happens when you interrupt that pattern. When someone yells at you and instead of yelling back, you pause.
You observe the feeling without acting on it.
Exactly. When you do that, you starve that specific neural pathway of electricity.
And over time, it literally physically atrophies.
Yes. The dissolving of a limiting belief is a physiological event.
That makes total sense. Now let's pivot to the lens that usually scares people away, mysticism.
People do tend to run from that word.
The source transcripts bring in heavy concepts from traditions like Advaita Vedanta, Zen Buddhism, and Sufism.
They define a miracle as awakening from the dream of non-duality.
Okay, I need you to act as an aggressive translator here.
I can do that.
Because if you drop a phrase like Advaita Vedanta and non-duality at a dinner party, people's eyes are just going to glaze over.
Absolutely.
What does that actually feel like conceptually?
It's heavy jargon for a very simple realization. Duality means two.
Okay, 2.
It is the belief that there is a strict boundary between you and the rest of the universe.
I am in here and everything else is out there.
Exactly. Non-duality is the recognition that this boundary is an illusion.
Can you give me a metaphor for that?
The classic metaphor used in these traditions is the ocean and the wave.
I like this one.
If you are a wave, you might look around and say, look at all those other waves. That one is bigger than me. That one is faster than me.
And oh no, I'm going to crash onto the shore and die.
Right. The wave is terrified because it thinks it is a separate, temporary entity.
So what's the mystical miracle in this metaphor?
It's the moment the wave realizes it is not a wave at all. It is the entire ocean temporarily expressing itself as a wave.
The wave still crashes on the shore, the physical form still changes.
But the fear of death vanishes because the core identity has shifted from the temporary shape to the eternal substance.
That is a phenomenal way to explain it, which brings us to the lens of direct experience.
Right, because it's great to talk about oceans and waves.
But what happens when you are in the middle of a panic attack?
In direct experience, the miracle is discovering and observing awareness within you that is entirely untouched by the panic.
Think of it like a hurricane, right?
Perfect analogy. The emotions, the trauma, the physical sensations, those are the 150-mile-per-hour winds tearing your house apart.
But in the exact center of that storm is the eye.
And it is perfectly still.
Direct experience is the sudden, shocking realization that no matter how severe your trauma is, there is a space of awareness observing that trauma that has never been harmed.
It cannot be cut, burned, or traumatized.
Finding that untouched space is totally life-altering, but it brings us to the most difficult lens of all.
Everyday living.
Yes, because you can find that deep peace while meditating on a cushion, but eventually.
Eventually, you have to get up, pay your taxes, and empty the dishwasher.
I love this part of the transcripts because Joe Bandra's co-host, Kim, brings this brilliant, grounded humor to the discussion.
She really does.
They're deep in this heavy philosophical debate, and Kim just stops and asks, okay, but in everyday living, if my husband actually remembers to take out the garbage without me having to nag him for 3 days, is that a miracle?
And Bandra just laughs and says, yes, it absolutely is, though it might require a different kind of divine intervention.
It's a joke, obviously, but it highlights a profound truth. Why is everyday living the hardest lens?
Because everyday living is where the friction is.
Right. It's easy to feel at one with the universe when you're sitting alone on a mountaintop.
The real test of a miracle is when your spouse says something passive-aggressive on a Tuesday morning while you're trying to get the kids to school.
If you can catch your automatic biological urge to snap back and instead respond with a microsecond of understanding.
That is the miracle in action. It is bringing the profound down to the mundane.
And that friction of everyday life is exactly what makes the final lens so crucial.
Of all the frameworks we've discussed, the most surprising partner to this spiritual inquiry is hard, empirical science.
Specifically, modern neuroscience and cognitive science.
Let's spend some serious time in this scientific lens.
Yes, because we have this culturally enforced idea that science and spirituality are mortal enemies.
We're taught that if you want to be a rational, science-minded person, you have to throw out consciousness and spirituality completely.
But the deeper neuroscience probes into the mechanics of perception, the more it accidentally validates the core premises of these ancient mystical texts.
Let's look at how the brain actually works. We naively assume that our eyes are like video cameras.
Streaming a live, objective feed of the world directly into our minds, we think we are experiencing reality.
Science tells us this is completely false.
Your brain is locked inside a pitch-black, silent vault of bone called your skull.
It has absolutely no direct access to the outside world.
All it receives are electrical impulses traveling up nerve fibers.
So what does it do with those electrical blips?
It has to guess.
It has to constantly generate a predictive model of what it thinks is out there based on your past experiences and your current emotional state.
It is essentially hallucinating our reality in real time.
This is where Joe Bandra introduces a fascinating interpretation of how our biology ties into this spiritual concept.
Before he dives into the spiritual implications of this, he gives us a metaphor to hold on to.
What's the metaphor?
Bandra says, your brain is a biological VR headset.
A biological VR headset. That is brilliant.
Let's really look at the mechanics of a VR headset. If you strap a piece of plastic to your face and boot up a game where you're standing on a plank over a skyscraper.
Your conscious mind knows you're in your living room. You know you're on solid ground.
But your body does not care. Your heart rate skyrockets, you start sweating, you get vertigo.
Your biology reacts perfectly to the simulation it is being fed, even though the simulation is entirely fabricated.
Now take the headset off and realize that your brain is doing the exact same thing to you right now.
You do not see reality. You see your brain's simulation of reality.
Why does the brain do this?
It does it for biological efficiency and survival. It is much faster to predict a threat than to slowly analyze every piece of incoming data.
Like if you're walking in the woods and see a curved shape on the ground.
Your brain immediately simulates a snake and pumps you full of adrenaline so you jump back.
A second later, you realize it's just a stick.
But for that 1 second, the snake was entirely real to your nervous system.
So how does this scientific reality of predictive processing map onto the spiritual concept of a miracle?
Let's walk through a concrete scenario.
Let's say you receive an email from a colleague that says, I reviewed your project proposal. We need to make significant changes.
The objective physical reality of the universe in that moment is just a specific arrangement of pixels emitting light on a glass screen.
That is it. That's the only objective reality.
But what does your biological VR headset do with those pixels?
It depends entirely on the code running in the background.
If your VR headset is programmed with deep insecurities, imposter syndrome, and a fear of authority,
It takes those pixels and generates a simulation of an attack.
it predicts that your colleague thinks you are stupid. It predicts you might lose your job.
Your nervous system reacts to the email as if a tiger just walked into the room.
You draft a defensive, angry reply. You are living in a simulation of a war zone.
But if we apply the miracle, if we wipe the dirt off the window, what happens?
You look at the exact same arrangement of pixels. The external physical reality has not changed by a single atom.
But your internal software has shifted. You're no longer running the program of a threatened, isolated ego.
You read, we need to make significant changes, and your brain generates a completely different simulation.
You realize your colleague is probably just stressed out by the deadline.
You see it as a collaborative effort rather than a personal attack.
You feel calm. You draft a helpful reply. You are living in a simulation of peace.
The vocabularies are completely merging here.
What a cognitive behavioral therapist calls cognitive reframing.
And what a neuroscientist calls updating a predictive model.
The spiritual text simply calls a miracle.
They are pointing to the exact same mechanism.
A miracle is not a violation of the laws of physics. It is the utilization of the laws of neuroplasticity.
You are literally rewriting the code of your biological VR headset.
I really want you, the listener, to pause whatever you are doing and internalize this. Right now, you are wearing the headset.
As you listen to our voices, your brain is actively generating the room around you.
Think about the things keeping you up at night. The financial stress, the relationship problems, the political anxiety.
You are not experiencing those things directly.
You are experiencing a predictive simulation of those things, filtered through decades of acquired fear.
If the software is causing you suffering, the software can be rewritten.
But that logically leads us to the ultimate question: how?
If our VR headset is currently stuck on a default setting of fear and separation, how do we actually run the new code?
The source material offers two highly specific tools to accomplish this, but we have to tread carefully.
Because both tools have been severely misunderstood by society.
Those tools are love and forgiveness.
We touched on love earlier, redefining it from romance to the natural state of non-separation.
But forgiveness is where the heavy lifting really happens.
And we have to address the toxic, conventional definition of forgiveness first, because it does massive psychological damage.
It really does. Societal forgiveness is often weaponized.
The standard narrative is a power dynamic.
It says, you did something bad to me. You are the villain. I am the moral victor. But because I am such a highly evolved spiritual person, I am going to graciously pardon your sin.
Or worse, society uses forgiveness to demand compliance from victims.
If you were truly a good person, you would forgive your abuser, go back to Thanksgiving dinner, and pretend nothing ever happened.
We need to unequivocally clarify what true forgiveness is not in this framework.
It is not pretending the trauma didn't occur. It is not being a doormat.
It does not mean you have to allow a dangerous person back into your life.
And it certainly does not mean you are conceding that the person who hurt you was justified.
Conventional forgiveness demands that two people participate. It requires the perpetrator to apologize and the victim to accept.
The Course redefines forgiveness as a completely solitary internal mechanism.
True forgiveness is seeing through the illusion that your current internal peace is held hostage by someone else's past behavior.
There is an old saying, Holding on to resentment is like swallowing poison and expecting the other person to die.
Resentment is a burning coal that you are clutching in your own bare hand.
Hoping the heat will somehow travel across time and space to burn the person who wronged you.
Forgiveness, mechanically speaking, is just recognizing that your hand is blistering and choosing to drop the coal.
That is the core of it. It's dropping the heavy backpack of psychological burden so you can walk freely.
You do not need their apology to drop the coal.
You do not need their participation to take off the VR headset that keeps replaying the simulation of victimhood.
It is an act of supreme self-interest and liberation.
But to initiate this kind of radical forgiveness, the text relies on a concept that is going to trigger some alarms for our secular listeners.
We cannot do a deep dive into this material without addressing the elephant in the room.
The repeated use of the phrase Holy Spirit.
Yes. For a large portion of the audience, the moment they hear the phrase Holy Spirit, their religious baggage slams down like an iron gate.
They picture a guy with a beard on a cloud, or they remember a deeply judgmental Sunday school teacher, and they immediately tune out.
And Joe Bandra spends a significant amount of time addressing this resistance.
He uses a concept from Zen Buddhism to explain the trap of religious vocabulary. He talks about the finger pointing at the moon.
Imagine someone pointing a finger up at a beautiful full moon.
The finger's just a tool to direct your attention.
But humanity has a terrible habit of ignoring the moon entirely and obsessing over the finger.
We argue about the shape of the finger. We start a war over what color the finger is.
We write massive theological textbooks about the historical lineage of the finger.
Meanwhile, the moon is right there, completely ignored.
The words Holy Spirit are just the finger. Language is just a pointer.
If the pointer triggers your trauma, throw the pointer away.
Exactly. Don't worship the vocabulary. Look at the mechanism the vocabulary is trying to describe.
If the religious terminology blocks you, the text explicitly encourages you to use secular translations.
What is the Holy Spirit pointing at? It is pointing to your innate inner wisdom.
It is pointing to the observing consciousness we talked about earlier.
That eye of the hurricane that remains untouched by trauma.
It is pointing to the deepest intelligence within your biology that knows how to heal itself.
Whether you call it the Holy Spirit or your intuition or your higher self or just basic psychological clarity, it does not matter to the mechanism.
What matters is that you have a capacity within you to distinguish truth from illusion.
You have the ability to recognize when your VR headset is lying to you. Activating that capacity is all that matters.
So let's synthesize all of this. We've covered neuroscience, philosophy, ancient mysticism, and the mechanics of forgiveness.
Let's bring it down to a real-world, flesh-and-blood scenario from the text to see what this ultimate miracle actually looks like.
Imagine there is someone in your life who deeply, profoundly wronged you. Someone you have passionately hated for years.
Just hearing their name makes your heart race.
Now imagine you do this internal work. You recognize the VR headset. You refuse to carry the burning coal anymore. You access that inner wisdom.
And one day you happen to run into this person on the street.
You look at them and you realize you are scanning your body for the hatred, and it just isn't there anymore.
It has evaporated.
It has been replaced by a quiet, neutral peace.
Now no audience is going to applaud that moment. You can't film it and put it on TikTok.
It is completely invisible to the outside world. To a passerby, it's just two people standing on a sidewalk.
But according to every discipline we've investigated today, that invisible, silent release is the ultimate miracle.
It is infinitely more powerful than levitating or walking on water.
Because in that silent moment, the laws by which your mind interprets reality have been fundamentally rewritten.
You didn't change the other person. You didn't change the past.
But your entire universe shifted from a simulation of threat to a simulation of peace.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? What is the overarching takeaway as we bring this deep dive to a close?
I think it boils down to what the text identifies as the single greatest misunderstanding of the human condition.
The biggest mistake we make, whether we're on a spiritual quest, in therapy, or just trying to get through the work week,
is assuming that our goal is to change reality.
We exhaust ourselves trying to arrange the perfect circumstances.
We think, if I can just get a better job, if I can just force my partner to understand me, if I can just get enough money in the bank, then the external world will be safe and I can finally feel peace.
This entire body of material is screaming the exact opposite. Reality never needed changing.
Reality is just neutral data. It is only your perception, your internal predictive model that ever needed changing.
The dirt on the window was never a problem with the sun. It was just a problem with our willingness to wipe it away.
And recognizing that gives you an incredible amount of power.
It means you are no longer a victim of circumstance waiting for a rescue mission.
The mechanism of the miracle is completely within your control right now, in this exact second.
Which brings me to a final provocative thought I want to leave you with, something to mull over as you navigate the rest of your week.
We've talked extensively about this biological VR headset.
We've explored how fear is not your baseline, but merely an acquired, learned software program.
We know your natural, unobstructed state is one of peace and clarity.
So I want you to try a radical experiment today.
The very next time your mind generates a terrifying simulation.
The next time your brain says, this mistake means I'm a failure, or this argument means I'm going to end up alone.
What happens if you simply refuse to buy a ticket to that simulation?
What if you look at the thought, recognize it as an old piece of code, and just say, no thank you?
What if the grand, life-altering miracle you have been desperately waiting for isn't a spectacular event shimmering in the distant future?
What if it is quietly, patiently waiting right behind your very next thought?
It is the ultimate invitation. We aren't being asked to conquer the world or fix the universe.
We are simply being asked to witness the beautiful, peaceful reality that has always been here, hidden just beneath the noise of our own fears.
I want to encourage you to take these concepts and stress test them in your own life.
Don't take our word for it, and don't take the source material's word for it. Question everything.
Especially question the voice inside your head doing the questioning.
Because waking up doesn't give you a shiny new world. It just finally allows you to see the one you're already standing in. Catch you next time.
Thank you for listening. If today's conversation resonated with you, please take a moment to like this episode, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may benefit from these reflections on A Course in Miracles and the deeper questions of life. Your support allows us to continue creating conversations that explore consciousness, reality, love, forgiveness, and what it truly means to awaken. I'm Kim Kaur, and it is my privilege to introduce Joe Bandra. Joe is an author, philosopher, speaker, healthcare technology pioneer, and a lifelong explorer of humanity's greatest questions. For more than 3 decades, he has worked at the intersection of science and medicine while pursuing an equally passionate exploration of A Course in Miracles. His first book, Finding Neve, is a transformative journey into self-discovery and the search for lasting happiness. His second book, Body, Mind, and Machine, shares his remarkable career in healthcare technology and the evolution of a profession dedicated to improving human lives. His upcoming work, The Nature of Reality, brings together science, philosophy, psychology, mysticism, and direct experience to explore one of humanity's oldest questions. What is reality really? Through every conversation, Joe invites us to question our assumptions, look beyond appearances, and discover a deeper understanding of ourselves, each other, and the extraordinary universe we share. Thank you for being part of this journey. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and above all, keep awakening.
Life often feels like an endless list of tasks, constant noise and distractions, pulling us in every direction. We're all searching for happiness, but what if we've been looking in the wrong places all along?
This was Nevaeh's journey. Lost in the noise, she felt cut off from the peace and happiness she longed for. Until she met Joe Bandra, an unconventional, insightful philosopher with a different perspective. Jay, as he is simply known, didn't hand her a map. He gave her something far more valuable, a compass, a way to turn inward, navigate her own thoughts, and uncover the clarity hidden beneath the chaos.
Readers around the world have been touched and inspired by Finding Nevaeh.
Your journey to inner peace begins now. Get your copy of Finding Nevaeh, available on Amazon and at findingnevaeh.org, or listen to the audiobook on Audible, Spotify, Apple, and other platforms.